We are incredible beings. And when we become the pioneers of shifting the paradigm of thriving in our body, mind, soul, and spirit, there will be no stopping what we can create together. Welcome to the Raw and Wild Hearts, a place where the raw, the unfiltered, the wild hearts gather to celebrate triumphs and hardships, learn from each other, grow together, and break down a culture rooted in fear. We will talk, we will laugh, and we will lean on each other about everyday life experiences that we could all use a little support through, and then we'll bask in the wild, magical beings that we are. My philosophy is that by embracing the dark, we may just let in the light. I am your host, Lori Rising, healer, educator, writer, adventurer, retreat leader, birth defender, and animal enthusiast and activist, along with my wild heart sidekick Kitty, Jesus the Brave. We'd like to invite you to get excited about the Wild Heart Revolution. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Raw and Wild Hearts podcast. I am your host, Lori Rising, and welcome to today's episode called Radical Accountability. Yes, it is time. It's time for us to get so wildly intentional with our lives that there's no other choice but to burn and shine bright. Can you feel it deep in your cells? We're going to get into that soon. But first of all, if you are new here, welcome to the podcast. I just wanted to share a little bit about what we do here. We continue to drop into the divine and majestic beings that we are through our shadow work, our vulnerability, our superpowers of emotionality, our trauma transformation, through the excavation of this BS fear culture that has kept us in limitation and dimmed our lights for far too long. We excavate those belief systems and we work on the full transformation of them so that we can live in beautiful states of magnetization and birthrights of joy and ease that we were meant to actually unfold this journey in. So welcome. I'm stoked that you have found us, and I do hope you find so much support and guidance through this mission and this podcast. Check out my library. I have so many beautiful souls that have offered their time, their energy, and their expertise in so many amazing interviews. They are all timeless, so make sure to go back and have at it. And if you are getting some exquisite guidance through this work, the best way to support us is to definitely subscribe, share some of these episodes or the show with your communities, like, comment, and give us a star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. It really does help to up the show's algorithm and get it into more ears. So if you're a longtime listener, heyo, I'm so grateful and appreciative of you and your part that you have played in this sacred container and wild heart revolution. If you want to know more about me and my programs and my offerings, I have lots for you, both free and paid. Check out my website at therawandwildhearts.com. Jump on my email list. Stay in the know with all the haps that are coming down the pike, because there's a lot, including an amazing in-person retreat experience this October 7th, 8th, and 9th in Berkeley, California with the incomparable intuitive astrologer Molly McCord. Yes, it's called Awakening Astrology Retreat, and this experience is galactically activated. When Molly and I bring our superpowers together, there is a beautiful portal that opens that words can't even describe, quite honestly. We're still reeling from the last one in Florida, and that's why we have made this intentional choice to move forward and offer this to so many more people, because this is how we fully activate the new Earth rebirth. This is how we rebuild systems from our multidimensional states of being from places of unity consciousness, of love, of high frequency magnetization and energy. Literally, we get to go quantum, and we have to be intentional about it, which is where this podcast comes in divine time right now. If you're feeling called in your cells to be a part of this quantum embodied experience with Molly and I, definitely check out the link in the show notes below. Let me know if you have questions. It's coming up. And also, there is something really beautiful in this space where we jump and we leap and we take steps into what we intuitively know will take us deeper in our mission. We invest in our soul growth in order to magnetize every other part of our life. This is part of the radical accountability, y'all, because for so long we have been taught from these linear systems in this masculine dominated energy that our first and foremost goal should be money. Right? Now, I definitely believe in money. Don't get me wrong. It's a very important part of holistic wealth, but it's not the only part. When we have been putting so much energy and focus into money, time, and hustling, that has created burnout, dis-ease, stagnation, and resistance. Doesn't feel good, right? Just to even hear that. But when we can actually bring money into our frequency in new, higher, elevated ways, when we can feel really aligned with how money comes into our lives from deep states of soul growth, alignment, agency, sovereignty, and passion, especially in a soul's mission and soul's purpose here on earth, that creates a whole new ripple in our own personal evolution and in the collective consciousness and the collective experience from our contribution. What we know now, very much so, is that everything is energy. There is a frequency and energy all around us and within us. Everything is absorptive. We are sensory beings. We are not just the linear mind, the control mechanism that we have been taught in these institutionalized systems. So really, it only makes sense that when we are in a high vibration, we magnetize more of that to us. Now, when we stay in a hustle and grind and resistance can also be known as push through, power through, exhaust, overwhelm. When we stay in that mentality, we're attracting a lower frequency and having to work so much harder to produce the results that we are hoping for in a very backwards way to go about it. So, do we have work to do? Yes. Are we doing it? Yes. And I know if you're listening to this podcast, you are out there doing the hard ass soul work. You are making huge contributions in your light body acceleration and the light frequency on this planet. Big, big props and honor to you. I am so appreciative to be doing this warrior work with you. It's not for the faint of heart, but it is for the liberation of the soul. You feeling me there? Yes, that feels good. Okay, so let's talk more about radical accountability. This energy really came through when I just completed a 3-day bone broth cleanse. And I mean, wow, I can think that I'm living in the present moment, but also in that thinking comes lots of habitual reactions, including the way that I consume food. And then I do something like this, that I have to choose it every single moment of the full 3 days. And that becomes a bigger teacher than I could ever imagine. In the end, after the last day, I received so many messages about who we are at our core, who we came to be, and how we thrive, and how deeply, deeply We have been disconnected from that power and that light. And it just continues over and over and over with the constant dominant narrative and energy of this culture. And that kind of is why a lot of us resist change, because it takes energy, it takes intention, and it takes presence to make that change. Some of the biggest excuses or even defenses that we come up with are that it takes too much time, it costs too much, and we are too exhausted. Are we too exhausted? Yeah, we are. But is that a choice that we've been making? Let me lovingly explain that. We have been run ragged in order to survive in this culture. We've also plugged in to the messages and the dominant energy over and over and over. And so that is what has kept us exhausted. Now, when we are doing things in our lives that are really misaligned with our soul and our source energy, our inner being, basically from outdated belief systems, limitations, scarcity, lack mentality, judgments of our collectives, our families, our communities, we get exhausted. That is exhausting. And we come home and then we plug into the TV just to distract ourselves from things that are creating low frequency states for us and negativity, and honestly affecting our mental health in profound ways, because we get stuck in this cycle and then we never find the energy to seek out the aligned actions, the aligned inspirations that bring our soul joy, that take us back to beautiful states of innate health. I mean, I could go on and on about what happens when we stay plugged in to a dominant system and narrative that wants us to be disconnected from our life force, that wants us to be unwell in order to continue domination, power over, and a for-profit institutionalized medical system that thrives on our discontentment, dis-ease, and exhaustion. Okay, so if you have followed me in my innate medicine at all, you know how passionate I am about this. I call myself a fear culture destroyer because of how important this is. You being in your life force and living well, thriving, and being in touch with your innate knowingness, your inherent medicine, and your sensory navigation system is the most important thing you will ever do for this iteration of your life in this body, and for a humanity that gets to live in a new earth rebirth of love, balance, abundance, and benevolence. Yes, it is absolutely possible. I can guarantee that if you stay plugged into the old earth systems of greed, power over, and domination, it will feel impossible. But if you take radical accountability to excavate the belief systems that are not only yours, these are belief systems that have been handed down to us through our DNA, in our lineage. This is big. It is huge. These are belief systems that get enacted through epigenetics, through the activation of those cells from the environment that we bathe them in. I hope that you feel into this. Feel how powerful it is that every thought and energy and frequency that you take in all day long, every day, is what you bathe your cells in. It's how they express. And whatever it is that you practice every day, that will become your mindset. That will become your normal. So let's talk about, how do we practice radical accountability until it becomes so normalized in our soul, body, mind, and energy to be in our birthright of divinity, in how humans were made to thrive in this journey. Does it take time? Yes. This is an unfolding journey, and we are honestly learning to unlearn through much of it, which is a bummer because it's the dominant narrative systems, capitalism, culture that has landed us in the unhealthiest states humans have ever experienced in all of our time here. So, first and foremost, becoming timeless on this journey is important. That's actually a belief system we have to excavate because we have been molded into this concept of time from the calendar year to daylight savings to hustle and grind culture to competition to deadlines and more. And when we put our soul's growth and personal evolution on that time clock, we just jump right back into that loop that can result in self-judgments, feelings of unworthiness, and definitely belief systems of scarcity that have us making moves and shifting energy back into what creates that misalignment and low frequency loop or energy. So, things we should know about being radically accountable. It's free, but it's intentional. So you do have to break the cycle. And I'll tell you right now, the quickest, the best, and most supported way to break that cycle immediately is to change your stream of consciousness. Change the dominant energy that you are plugging into. This is why it's so easy for us to do unhealthy things every day, all day long. They become habitual reactions because the energy that we're absorbing all day is doing them as well. So we just kind of slide in and just have at it. I want you to just imagine for a second, you're driving home from somewhere and you see everyone outside playing, laughing, at the park, riding their bike, doing whatever they're doing outside. How easy do you think it would be to tap into that? How quickly would you feel that emanation of joy and energy that people are experiencing all around you? And you probably would find a lot of energy as soon as you get home to come on out and join them. Now, if you're driving home and you see no one outside, you don't even have to see this, but you feel the energy of people exhausted and tired and broken down in their homes, just staring at the TV. That's an easy energy to tap into. If everyone around you is talking about the news and did you hear this and did you hear that? Did you know this is going on? The sensationalism. Remember, this is a for-profit system that's dominated by one of our biggest conglomerates. There's always something deeper to what they're sharing with you. There is an agenda. There is a plan. But what I'm really trying to show or share here is how easy it is to tap into whatever is happening the most around us. Okay? That is the absorptive beings that we are. It's not even just the fear frequency that gets activated in your mind or the sympathetic nervous system, the fight, flight, or freeze that gets activated from the information that's coming in. It's also the easy dominant energy to slide into at any moment. So you have to make that choice. You have to be intentional in radical ways to change that cycle, to break the habit, to maybe even be a lone wolf in your community, your family, or your collective until you can feel the ripple effect that's happening all around. And trust me, it is happening. It's becoming more and more easy to tap into the energy of soul growth, of divine curiosity, of trauma transformation, and more because the results are feeding the fire. Now, something else that I want you to feel into is our on-demand culture. We really have been sold this idea of immediate gratification that comes from our desire to control our environment, control our lives, control our emotions, control our bodies. It's also resulted in a lot of stagnation, dis-ease, and resistance that we then subsequently just power through and go through the cycle again. So it's like our most natural and vibrant state has become unnatural. And that's where I say we actually have to do the work to learn to unlearn what has fed into us for centuries. And that is how powerful you are. In a capitalist culture, in an immediate gratification culture, we just want to pay for things and have them happen, right? And that is not the fuel to the human journey. That's not the fuel to the full holistic wealth and abundance. That's the fuel from wanting our validation or our happiness to come from something external or from some object or acquisition of things in our lives. And again, look around. We are the most unwell, unhappy, mentally and physically unfit we've ever been. So let's look at the root. Let's explore the root. That's where the radical accountability is coming into. And probably one of the biggest things that I do want to talk about here is how often do you allow yourself to be curious over being right? And there's a few aspects to dive into. Again, we come up with a narrative here, the expert narrative. We've been taught through our institutionalized systems like our education system and our medical system especially, that we go somewhere, we go to a building to get what we need, right? To get the education in order to get the job, in order to pay the bills, to get the dream. So feel into that, how it becomes very robotic, right? It's like everything in history teaches us how to do something, and there's some expert teaching us until we learn enough from the books to become an expert on our own. That completely negates all of the innate wisdom and knowledge that we have come in with, because it actually suppresses it in ourselves. The more that we take on these programmings, these conditionings, and these traumas from the limitations and disconnection, the less we remember and reactivate lifetimes of knowledge in ourselves. And also stop making history, because our belief system has become one that history has been made and we are only here to learn from it. And then also in the medical system and narrative, it's that someone outside of us is there to heal us. And there's a pill that's going to suppress your symptom and make you feel better. And then this can bring us back to the immediate gratification as well. It's like we've gone so far astray from the initial curiosity into the exploration of possibilities, into the lessons and learnings coming from our body consciousness, our intuition, and the messages that are being sent to us, that then opens us up to creation energy and imagination that then leads us not only to healing, but thriving in our lives. So there's an entire journey that has been hijacked by these linear, one-dimensional systems. Something else that this energy has led to is us believing that we are finite. We are who we are. It's genetic. I can't change. If any of those sound familiar to you, let's melt those edges right now. Because again, our superpower is in change. We are made to change. We are made to adapt. We are made to shift and mold and create and play and imagine. And I can guarantee you that when that belief system deeply changes and shifts and lands in your cells, your entire life will open up in new, expansive ways. And let's talk a little bit about the failure trap. Yeah, this is a big one. If we believe in failure, we will fail to the degree that we believe failure exists. That makes sense? I have completely transformed the view, the energy, and frequency of failure. And that is why you still see me and hear me on this soul's mission. If I had continued to believe in failure in the sense of scarcity, lack, competition, and comparison, I would have quit long ago, But I landed with a beautiful mentor for a while that helped me really understand the beauty of failure. As I continued to understand the beauty of shadow work and even trauma, failure is a divine gift of more information and messages that lead you to a path of more ease in a quicker way to where you're going. But in the culture that we have plugged into for so long of comparison and competition and lack, we have seen failure as a dead end, as something finite, and as a reason to give up on our dream, our goal, and our soul's purpose and belief. Remember what we talked about before, that it's super easy to tap into the dominant narrative and energy. And if we've all been conditioned to give up at the first sign of distress or the first fork in the road, instead of realizing that those are the messages coming in for guidance and support, then we can just follow that flow. And the immediate gratification and social media culture makes us believe that success should be instant. And the reality is that kind of success is mostly short-lived because you're not ready for it. When we are doing the work, when we are maintaining our alignment, when we are being radically accountable, our paths come to us as we have the openings in our souls and cells and the availability in our lives. Trust that. Trust the journey and the process. That is where the holistic wealth and abundance lives. And lastly, I just want to ask you to check in with yourself and feel into if you would rather defend your past choices than grow from them. This can be for fear of being wrong or fear of the consequences that might come from those choices. And I also want you to realize that when you choose the path of growth, curiosity, and healing from your past choices, you elevate your frequency and up your attunement to spaces where you can heal and thrive from anything. But if we stay in the resistance of I'm right, you're wrong, I'll defend this to the death, that's a low frequency where we can't access the full power of our innate medicine and wellness that we came in with, our full energetic and light activation. This takes practice. We are habitual beings. Again, you've heard me say this time and time again. Look at what you're practicing every single day because that becomes who you are and what you magnetize in your life. And believe me, I know that this can be super humbling, especially in the beginning. But once you get well versed in it, it becomes your biggest source of liberation. So I feel like I went off on some tangents there about some energies that I didn't even think I was going to bring in today, but my guides kind of had a different idea. A couple of last thoughts that I want to share with you about radical accountability is actually about our body consciousness, our innate wellness and health that we came in with prior to any of these institutionalized systems coming into play. This is something that I teach in birth class all the time, that women were giving birth before there were hospitals and doctors. We have such a beautiful connection with source energy through our sensory navigation system and body's messages, but we have been trained to ignore them through the systems. We've been trained to ignore the pain, ignore the messages, the intuition, our gut instinct, and our full capacity of healing through consumption. That's food, energy, thoughts, frequency, and also through our intuition and gut instincts and through the body messages that were sent all the time. We have been taught to ignore our pain. We have been taught to fear our pain. We have been taught to silence our pain. We've never been guided to explore the root of our pain, of our intuition, of our messages, of our consumption. So pain, just like failure, is this wonderful guide into a new path of ease, wellness, and aligned action. So I'm just going to give the example of my bone broth cleanse again to wrap this up and make this final thought, which is what I thought the whole podcast was going to be on. Make it pretty clear and concise in a short way. At the end of my bone broth cleanse, I released candida and even parasite eggs. Now, full disclosure, about 4 years ago, I was in Costa Rica and had influenza and actually drank bad water and ended up with parasites that I worked for a whole year at ridding my body of, and thought I had gotten to the root, made some major changes in my life, and took accountability for that process in my system instead of letting it get to the point of what could have felt like no return, and then had to do basically an emergency Band-Aid or symptom eradication through conventional medicine, which is really what conventional medicine does. And it's just become such a dominant part of our culture for so many reasons, including the way that our insurance system works. And so as I did this cleanse and changed my habits and had to choose every single moment to do something new, to radically shift something in my life, I realized at the end, like, we have such a beautiful power within us to make great change in our lives. And it can feel like a sacrifice when we do it because we are so habitual that it takes a lot of energy to make that shift. But when we experience the results, it's a huge reminder of how we have bypassed ourselves time and time again, how we have trained ourselves to ignore the pain in our body, which translates to us ignoring the pain in our society, in our culture, in our world. And we continue to bang our heads in this system that we cry for change and we scream for change in, but it never gets to the root. This, my friends, is where the radical accountability comes in. This is where we realize that we have so much innate power, ability, imagination, and creation energy to tap into to build new. We are incredible beings. And when we become the pioneers of shifting the paradigm, of thriving in our body, mind, soul, and spirit, there will be no stopping what we can create together from the frequency and the elevation and the transcendence of the drama, the matrix, and the limitations that have been feeding off of our disconnection and unwellness. And lastly, for sure, I just want to throw a little astrology in to share with you what a huge support and boost we have to tap into right now so that we can and will become radically accountable in our lives. And then everyone else, as they become ready, can tap into our frequency and create that radical accountability in their life that becomes a ripple effect, a butterfly effect that makes quantum leaps and changes, even in what we view as linear systems and structures. So we have definitely been moving from the age of Pisces, which is the age of illusion, into the age of Aquarius, which is the age of sovereignty. So this is actually shifting us out of this dominant energy that the power was outside of us, that we were seeking something externally in that illusion. We are now moving into the exposure of that underbelly that has served to keep us in states of disempowerment as we move deeper into our light, our sovereignty, and our agency, which reveals the truth in ourselves and our soul, that it is in and through the light and love frequency that we are meant to live together in harmony, balance, and benevolence. Let's continue to pay attention to honor, witness, and acknowledge the messages that come through our body consciousness, our intuition, our energy, and our innate truth in order to bring our full light, our full sovereignty, our full soul's journey and purpose here that we chose in these human bodies to the collective to create a force so big that no more dark agendas and frequencies can penetrate it. I am so here to do it with you. I know that this episode maybe was a little bit intense, but I feel like we are next leveling it. And I feel like there are a lot of people that are starting to drop into a curiosity as the matrix continues to dismantle and unfold while our cells open up and receive, integrate, and activate the light codes, messages, and energies that are coming through. We have the opportunity to rebuild intentional practices of soul growth, personal evolution, shadow transformation, karmic reckoning, and lineage wound healing for good. We are here to do this work. We are on mission, and it is go time. As always, we are the students and seekers here on mission, but know that you are a teacher as well. The more that you experience your ascension and light body activation and multidimensional states of being from the radical accountability that you practice every single day, the more you get to share how to tap in, to be liberated, to live well, and experience true unity consciousness with all of the divine gifts that follow. Okay, y'all, I hope that this wasn't just a kick in the light frequency ass. I hope that it was also very supportive and really exciting deep in your cells for what's to come. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. And until next time, don't forget to keep looking up. And with that, let's normalize the struggles, celebrate the quirks, and lean into the light. From myself and Beezus the Brave, happy Wild Heart Revolution, friends.